afternoon, everyone. I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm going to do this very, very rudimentarily. So when the organizing team came over a few months ago, we were talking about the theme. We were talking about what I could possibly say in 12, 15, or 18 minutes about Unbound. We're about thinking about what are the main issues that if I assume most people here are around 18 or 20 or a little bit even younger than that, what are the major decisions that you guys will face? And I'm around 30. I just turned 31 this year. So I guess I'm going to try to focus on what I think will happen between the ages of 18 or around 20 to 30, what's going to happen in the next 10 years, and what's the prevailing theme that we think we can use to solve these issues. So taking a step back, when I was your age, I guess the major themes that are going to come up are, where do I go to college? What do I choose as my major? Do I choose a minor? What do I do for my internship? Do I go on to graduate school? Do I find my first job? Do I study abroad? Do I stay over here? Do I do a few years in New York or LA or some other parts? Or do I come back home? And do I eventually work for a big company, or do I listen to my parents, or do I start my own job, start my own company? There are many different things and many different issues and major decisions we have to make in the next couple of years. So I think, strictly from my experience, I spent half my life in Taiwan and half my life in the US. So I can kind of see both the advantages and disadvantages of both education systems. So I think from an Asian context, we're always taught to think one step before. So to put that into context, it's like we're in middle school and all of our parents, our teachers, our professors, no offense to the teachers here today, always tell us, okay, you're getting good grades, go into the best high school. You're getting good grades, go into the best college. You're getting good grades, go to medical school, become a doctor. All Chinese parents, to some degree, always say it's usually a doctor, lawyer, or teacher. It's either one of these three, right? So always people say we have a good enough grade to become a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher, but no one really asks us, do we want to be a doctor? Do we want to be dedicating the next 40 years of our life to become a lawyer? No one really asks us those big philosophical questions. So in many ways, Asian education is more about technicalities. It's about how do we get that score and then we decide. Whereas after we enter society, it's all the opposite way around. We should decide first what is our philosophical direction, and then we decide whether or not we should get there. So I'll use this from, I was a business major, so I'll use more of a business analogy for this. So let's say, you become suddenly, you're assigned to become the CEO of Apple. As the CEO of Apple, usually a tenure is, let's say, anywhere between 4 to 8 years. Then we do not say on our first day, I will become CEO of Apple, and my number one goal right now is to grow our company's sales by 10% by the end of next year. Does that really make any sense? Why 10%? Why 15? Which categories? Computers, laptops, or cell phones? It's a very abstract notion. So it's the exact same idea where when we're 17, we decide, okay, what college do we go to? We always decide 1 year before. That's the Asian education system. That's the Asian context. So that's why it's so confusing, because we don't have an end goal. The fundamental end question should always be, what do you want to do when you're 25, when you're 30? What is your dream job? What is your dream career? And then we decide back from the ages of 18 all the way until 25 or 30, which necessary steps allow me to get to that stage as fast and efficiently as possible. So going back to that Apple analogy, if you become an Apple CEO, you don't say, my only focus will be for the next 365 days, I want to grow sales for 10%. Usually it's, by the end of my tenure, I want Apple cell phones to be the number one player in China. If currently it's only 10%, but by the time I retire, I want it to be 35%. And that's my goal for the next 4 years. And then how do I, in each consecutive year, what resources do I need? Who do I hire? What decisions do I make to gradually hit that goal? Okay, so coming back to who we are right now, I was warned to draw this very, very big, so we can see this on the screen. So let's say we're 18 right now, and eventually we plan out when we're 30. Maybe if we're too young, we can imagine when we're 25. So the question people most likely ask at this stage is, which college should I go to? I have no idea what I want to do with my career. I have no idea if I want to be a double E major or a medical pre-med major or a pre-law major. That's very, very easy to imagine, because when we're 17, all we can see is, what do I do when I'm 18? When I'm 21, all we can see is, what do I want to do when I'm 22? When we're 22, all we can see is, what do I want to do? What kind of job do I want to find when I'm 23? Ideally, we should take a step back. We should reverse it. Ideally, we should be asking ourselves, what do you actually want to do after you graduate from college? What do you actually want to do in the long term? What is your long-term end goal? So the question we should actually be asking is, what do I want to be doing as my dream job when I'm 30? Or at the very least, what career do I think I want to dedicate myself to for the next 20, 30, or 40 years of my life? So let's say my dream job is when I'm 30, I want to be a banker working in New York. And then when I'm 18, that leads you to come back and strategically think, what degree, what school, what majors, what internships, where should I work that will gradually lead me closer towards my end goal at 30. It gives you a much clearer decision-making process because you finally know what you're doing this for. You finally know why you're taking this minor, why you're taking this elective, why you're taking this internship. Besides the obvious answer, my parents told me to do that, or everyone is going for a business minor, or everyone wants to go into business. Finally, we have a reason to do it for ourselves. On average, let's say we graduate when we're 22. On average, your first and second job duration is probably about 2 or 3 years. So that means, if we take this as an example, every 3 years you will change a job. So you have 3 possible decision-making processes. So then that means, if 30 is your end goal, if 30 is that job, I want to be a banker in New York, then which job leads me gradually more into that pyramid? So we're over here right now. We still have a whole room full of options. We could become lawyers, teachers, medical students, whatever. The idea is, the older we get, we should be slowly narrowing down our decision-making process so that we're choosing what makes most sense in terms of alignment. So this is a very simple idea. But from a business standpoint, it would be ridiculous if we came on board and said, I want to grow my company, I want to buy this company, and I want to enter Europe. Why? Why do you want to buy this company? Why do you want to grow 10%? Going back to that Apple analogy, why 10%? Why not 15? Why not 20? Why China? Why cell phones? Why not laptops? It's very hard to explain if we're only always thinking one step before and 1 year before. But if I can tell you, we need to enter China, we need to grow cell phones, we need to grow 15%, because that's the only way in 4 years' time we will hit and become the #1 cell phone company in China, then everything makes sense. Then you can more clearly go back and think, okay, what are the resources? Who do I need to hire? And so therefore, from our analogy, what school do I go to? Which country do I go to? How do I think about my next steps? This is the very basic premise of strategic thinking. And even though it looks very easy, once we start graduating, once we enter the workforce, once we become business managers, this is the one theme or spirit that will basically string together all of your decision-making processes. It's not about the next day. It's not about tomorrow or the next week. It's always about the end goal. And in many ways, this decision process can solve many of our life's problems. So going back to that first original question, what do I want to do when I graduate? Which internship do I want to find? Which country do I want to go to? Almost everything, you can take a step back and think, what am I doing this for? So the questions that we most often get when we're young is, should I go to business school? Should I go to Cornell? Should I go to UCLA? That's in many ways a wrong question that we're asking. We should actually be asking ourselves, what do I want to do after I graduate from UCLA? What do I want to do after I receive that degree? You're asking, should I go to that school? But the question you should be asking yourself is, what do I want to do even if I do go to that school? You take care of that philosophical question first. Whether or not I can get into UCLA, whether or not I can become a doctor, is a technical question. And Asian education is very good at brainstorming you and brainwashing you every day about solving the technical side. But we spend very little time actually thinking about the philosophical side. Should I become a doctor and whether or not I want to become a doctor are 2 absolutely different things. Next time one of your parents says, go become a doctor, go back and ask them why. I guarantee you 99% of the time, parents actually can't give you an answer. Why should I become a doctor? Do I want to become a doctor? That answer is very fundamentally different than I have enough good grades, I can become a doctor. Whether or not I can is very different from whether or not I should. And that's the basis of strategic thinking. So anything we can encounter from the ages of 18 to 30, you can kind of solve by splitting up into philosophical issues and technical issues. You always solve the philosophical issues first. Should I enter this industry? Should I start my own company? Should I buy this company if I'm one day a senior manager? Yes or no, and then we decide what are the resources needed for me and able to achieve that goal. Okay, so I think all in all, This will be very, very helpful. This basically can solve actually 90% of all the major issues that you will encounter. And trust me when I say this, after you leave this, if there's one thing to remember from this, it's strategic thinking. Okay, it even goes down all the way to, should I be dating this girl at this age? Does this fit my life goals when I'm 22? What if she's going abroad? What if I want to start my own company and she's in Japan and this is a long distance relationship? Does it fit? Ideally, if it fits, it should be somewhere within this triangle. If it doesn't, for example, let's say I want to be a banker and all of a sudden I'm offered a job at Louis Vuitton. It pays well, it sounds good, but it in no way makes it easier for me to hit my eventual goal. Then technically, ideally, no matter how much money they offer, no matter how prestigious that job sounds, you should not be taking that job because it actually zigzags you away from your alignment. Back in business school, the most simple analogy we used to use was think of life as this whiteboard, as a table. Ideally, if this is point A, that's point D, and we're going from A, B, C to D. The most efficient answer should be completely alignment. You should be able to look at the end of a table and look all the way down to point D. That means every decision you made is kind of like a rope. You strung it together as hard, as short, as tough as possible. That means you made the most efficient answer, the most efficient decision that leads you to your end goal as fast as possible. So I went by this very, very fast, but I hope this helps. But a few final takeaways. When we're confused, we always fear. We're always very, very hesitant. That means confusion, failure, they're hard to imagine. The ideas of that are very, very abstract. Failure, where do I go? What do I want to do with my life? What major do I choose? They're very, very abstract ideas. If there's anything that this teaches us, whenever you're facing abstract ideas, your first step is to always factualize it. Your second step is to then quantify it. So I don't know what I want to do with my life. This is my end goal. What steps do I need to hit my end goal? You factualize it, and then you quantify it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Abstract, factualize, quantify. It will make things much less scarier. Okay? Good luck.